Awesome. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Chelsea, and I am a community admin in the Maintenance Community Slack group. It is currently 11 a.m. here in Los Angeles, so we're going to go ahead and get right started. I do want to let you know that we are recording this webinar, so for everyone who registered for this event, whether you are attending live or you're going to be watching this later, you will be receiving a full recording of this webinar in your email right after Manuel is finished today. So hopefully you heard about this webinar from our Slack group, the maintenance community. And if not, we will be sending you an invitation to the group after this webinar. So please feel free to join us there. We host a ton of events like this one with community experts like Manuel. And we also share a ton of different resources and offer just a ton of opportunities to engage and discuss with hundreds of people in the maintenance and reliability industry. So if you aren't a part of this group already, we hope to see you there soon. And at the very end of this webinar, we will be hosting a Q&A session. So to submit any of your questions that you might have throughout the webinar as Manuel is presenting, just simply enter them in the chat box, and Manuel will try to go over as many questions as he can at the very end of his presentation. And so with that, I think I'm all done with housekeeping. So I'm going to hand it over to Manuel to present on aligning your maintenance and procurement teams. So take it away, Manuel.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you, Chelsea, for the presentation, and to the maintenance community to have the opportunity to once again present something of my experience. Thanks to all of you who has joined to my presentation. This is one thing I like to work. I've been my 20-something years that I've been working on maintenance, always working very close to the purchasing or procurement department. So after I had chances for teaching some classes, I just understood that there was some kind of breach between the two departments. They are often trying to blame each other for the things that doesn't go well. But I had in two opportunities the chance to be manager of both departments at the same time, and it was very very productive to make joint projects to improve our results. So the first item I would like to talk to you is about process integration. Usually on the companies, we work as functional silos. So everyone is doing their job, has their objectives. So maintenance is in charge of making the machines go, that they doesn't stop. And purchasing, for instance, has an objective of spend the less money or make the most savings or have the best delivery time and things like that. But they don't always work together. We usually, when we talk about OEE or operations integrations, we talk about maintenance, operations, and quality. But there's a fourth actor that is procurement, the one who gives us all the materials and contractor, for instance, for making our work. So that's the thing I want to talk about today. In our maintenance model, we have 4 stages. One that is the planning, the second one that is the execution, then the verifications, and then the improving for making a continuous improvement model for maintenance. In the planning stage, we have several parts where procurement has a lot of things to do. When we talk about MRO, contractors, tools, and workshops, everything has to go through a bidding process. So it's very helpful that the maintenance people know how they work and know how they can interact with them and improve the overall throughput. So the first thing we need to know, since the maintenance point of view, is how is the procurement process. I have identified 4 stages in the procurement process. The first one is the planning. that is the basic planning. Then the second one is bidding and selection. The third one is managing the contracts that we made with the selections. And the fourth one is the contract closure. On, on all of them, procurement has some things to do, and maintenance has another things to do that will help the overall objective. In the planning stage, we are talking about the specifications, all the technical specifications, the scope of work, define the sourcing, if we are going to have only one contractor for doing the job, or we are going to have several contractors. When we have several contractors, we need to specify the limits, don't leave too much gray areas and things like that. About if we are going to buy parts, we are going to buy services, we are going to make contracts for fixed price. We need to keep it clear for the purchasing people about what they are going to buy. It's very important in this phase about the contract models. I've seen in several opportunities that we made all the bidding process, we made all the job for selecting the best contractor, and then after all the bidding, we give them a contract, a legal contract, and they don't agree with all the terms we are asking them, and then we have all the legal talking that could take more than the bidding process. So it's very important to have the contract models prior to making the bidding, so you can agree, you have all the rules prior to making an offer. Second one are the contracting requirements. What are we going to ask for them? We are going to ask for some guarantees. We are going to ask for some business papers. What are we going to ask for them? Then is the bidding evaluation metrics that is very important for the procurement, but because if not, they are going to select only by price. The bidding evaluation matrix is a tool that helps us make the selection based on other characteristics. Also, it's important to have all the policies about advance payments and warranty retention. For instance, in my company, you leave 10% of the contract amount, like a guarantee for 30 or 60 days for making it work right. And at last, all the claims and termination issues. What can happen that could make a contract may be broken and terminated? The second stage is bidding and selection. In bidding, you have to make the supplier selection. You have to select your suppliers, taking in context the size, the time, everything you will need, because it's not the same to build a little department that to build a whole building. You need financial aspects, for instance. How do you make the scope communications? How are you going to reach them? How are you going to answer their questions? Coordinate the technical visits. Now in the pandemic's era, you have to take care of all the sanitary things that have to take account for making technical visits. And to communicate the suppliers, the process stages, how long is going to be the process. And on the selection parts, after you have their quotations, you have to make a scope review that is very technical. This is where maintenance has a very important job to review the scope. Usually, we give maintenance the scope review without prices, so they don't get biased for nothing, just make the verification that the scope is correct. It's very important that in the quotation they have delivery time and place, guarantees, payment conditions, and to negotiate not only by price, but also by value added. Sometimes you can have a supplier that has some kind of a specialist that can give you some kind of know-how, or can give you some training or so, that could be taken in account at the time of a negotiation, and that's why evaluation matrix is going to be very useful. Here we have an example of the evaluation matrix. First is always the price. You can make a weight of 50% or less, but also the price will be the biggest weight in the evaluation. In this example, supplier number one has the better price, so it has the best score here. But if we take in account delivery, after sales service, and technical rating, you can see that the supplier number two can get a better score, and this will be your better offer, taking account everything you need, because it's the one who will deliver in half of the time, has a better after sales, and has a better technical rating for just a little more money. You have to agree on these weights with your procurement department and see which of these characteristics are more important for you. No more than three. If not, it's going to be too big, this matrix. But you can take here, for instance, the kind of specialists, the training courses, and things like that. Then we go to the stage of managing contracts. We have the supplier with you. We have made all the commercial papers, and then we need to execute supervision. So that's our field as maintenance. We need to check that they accomplish the scope, the quality, and the timeline. It's very important, for instance, to check all the materials as they arrive, because it's better to correct something before assembly. Also, we need to check the legal and occupational compliance, the safety and environment compliance, and document every transgression and penalties on the contract, and report them to anyone. Something that happens often is that you have a bad word from the contractor, you complain with them, you complain with the company, but you don't tell to procurement that you had troubles with them. And what happens next is that in the next project, they are going to invite the same supplier that didn't do a good job. And when they are inviting them, you will tell them, hey, but he was doing a bad job. Why do you invite him? But you don't have clear communication with your procurement department. The last stage is the contract's closure. When you finish the job, you have to be sure of the certificate of completion. Also have all the papers, all the testing that will be closing the project. Everything like a punch list of things that are pending, things that could be improved, things that are going to be on a next project, all the drawings, manuals, documents for maintenance and operations, and don't forget every document that the supplier needs for invoicing. So that's one thing. We usually finish with our part, and we don't do all the paperwork for them to invoice and to collect money. I would like to talk to you about some integration opportunities and projects that we can do with procurement and maintenance. It's very important that the part of specifications and purchasing be running smoothly in a company. I heard sometimes that they say, hey, no, the purchasers, the people on procurement has to be engineers and they have to know about maintenance. But the real thing is that the guys who have to give the technical view are the maintenance or projects people. The people who makes the procurement process has to be the ones who are experts in logistics and negotiation, has to understand the technical point of view, but they don't have to be necessarily experts. We are going to check 5 projects that you can work with your procurement department. The first one is MRO inventory levels. Sometimes MRO inventory level is managed by the storeroom that usually is in the logistics department. And this level is severely affected by maintenance planning and by maintenance performance because high level of emergencies leads to high level inventory because I need to have enough spare parts to attend all my emergencies. So any improvement on maintenance performance could be an opportunity to lower our inventory levels. Remember, we have a KPI that is called MRO versus RAF that can be lower as 1.5% only if maintenance practices are advanced and mature. If our storeroom is making the replenishment based only on history, on all the old failures, and you have improved something and you are not going to need that level of inventory, you need to report and you need to have good communication to try to lower the inventory level for the emergency items so you can lower this level. The inventory level is important because it's an amount of money that is without movement into the company that you can't use for doing sales good. The second project is purchase consolidations. How can you work between maintenance planning and procurement to consolidate the purchasing to have, for instance, a negotiation for a whole year? With this kind of negotiation, you improve your conditions and you can lower the prices. Purchasing can analyze different delivery modes and quantities to determine the optimum economic order. There's a lot of difference between bringing something by plane than by ship than renting a container for bringing the goods. So our supplier can also explore this kind of logistics opportunities to give us a better price or a better fill rate. They will improve supplier planning, lead time, and supplier fill rate, the level of attention we have. The third one is a tricky one. No, a good MRO storeroom practice is to run a slow movement report. What is a slow movement? Is all the items that didn't have a movement on the inventory that nobody required on the last 6 or 12 months. The slow movement items are originated by critical spare parts that you need to have them on your storeroom, but you are not going to use it very frequently. Delayed activities, something that you were planning to do on one date and get postponed several months. But the one that is very harmful are the obsolete spare parts. The obsolete spare parts come from assets that I don't have right now at my company. Some machines that got old, I dispose them, but never dispose the spare parts. I've been in some companies where the obsolete spare parts can be as high as 10% of the inventory levels. The obsolete management implies communication to finance department because the disposals will impact the P&L. It will go as a loss in our profit and losses report. It goes directly to the bottom line. So You have to seek alternate ways to avoid the profit loss, for instance, to sell obsolete parts like in an auction or something like that. Also create a policy to discard obsolete parts with asset deactivation to be part of our procedure that when we deactivate something, we need to check if there are some spare parts that you need to get rid of. The fourth one is about strategic suppliers. What is a strategic supplier? Is, for instance, some kind of items or services where you have only one supplier for that. You don't have the negotiation part in that. You can have a lot of leverage in that part. So you need to work different with strategic suppliers. One thing you can do is have a strategic agreement. For instance, you can improve spare parts availability on critical items because you tell them how many are you going to have in your storerooms. You can make an agreement that they maintain some stock for you at some prices. On electronics parts, you can work with making the firmwares upgrades or the versions upgrades. And for instance, when you have a critical item in your storeroom, usually the guarantees starts at the purchasing time. If you have the critical spare in your storeroom for a year, at installation time, the guarantee is void. So this kind of spare part agreements, you can negotiate that the guarantee time begins at installation time. So for electronics components, it's very useful. The other things that we do is we make what we call consignation. So we rent them a space on our storeroom that belongs to the supplier, so they bill us only when we consume the item. This type of contracts implies dedicated and guarded space for the supplier items and control policies to avoid the spare parts to get lost. At last, on low cost and high volume spare parts, the one who has both things like nails or bolts and things like that, you can make some kind of procedures and electronics reverse auctions that can improve your spare part cost. An electronic reverse auction is a logistic tool for making a lot of suppliers compete between them and have the lower cost. When you fix an annual volume, they will give you, the supplier, a better forecasting and can improve your negotiation. An open order is an order with fixed price and without volume limit for a time period that will simplify purchasing process because you are not going to beat everyone you are purchasing something. You have a fixed price and they are going to make our purchasing process linear. Take care of something. Sometimes when we fix a price and we fix a quantity or a volume, they will try to make us take a take or pay term. That's at the end of the year, the things that I didn't consume, I have to buy it. So if I don't need it, I don't have to buy it. So that's part of the negotiation. Sometimes we agree for an amount and we fix the price until we have consumed everything, but you have to take care of make a good projection. As closing comments, maintenance and procurement teams working together will improve availability because you are going to have everything you need on the storeroom at the time you need it. Will improve cost because of the negotiation. Taking account that maintenance provides the technical advice and the procurement provides the logistic expertise. So it's very useful on projects on maintenance that they work together, they have weekly meetings or something like that, some KPIs that can be shared between them so they have better results. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope this will help you, and I'm here for your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Manuel, for that presentation. We do have quite a few questions that came in throughout the webinar. For those who still have questions that they have, please feel free to put them in the chat and we will definitely get through them. But let's get started with the first few that came in. So Manuel, somebody's asked, what value do organizations get from having an aligned procurement team?
An aligned. Well, I think that to make the process linear, to make to have better savings and also to improve the user satisfaction. When procurement only makes all the process without asking their clients, they will usually go only by price. If they don't hear their needs, they are not going to have a good result for the company. The company will be spending more sometimes or have worse performance.
Awesome. Thank you for that response. Another question that we received was, sometimes we have problems with our equipment when they are shipped out to us in Europe. If there are not any options to buy equipment, what should we do? What are some recommendations that you have?
The thing is when we have we need to try to develop some brands in our countries or close to our countries. For instance, if I live in South America, so we purchase from United States, we purchase from Europe, we purchase from Asia. So the thing is that you need to be clear not only for the brand, but also where do they have plans, how can they ship to you. On the pandemic, we had a lot of trouble with China because they closed borders, so we didn't have the supplies at time. But the thing is, you need to be clear when you are choosing a brand, how is going to be the whole logistics.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We received another question here. Why do most companies load the technical bid evaluation at 50% price contribution if technical compliance is absolutely critical to ensure lowest LCC?
Oh, the thing is that when you make a good specification, you are going to select suppliers that will comply with that specification. So the technical issue should not be different between them. Technical counts something. When you make a bidding, the first thing you need to be sure is that they are offering you the same, that they comply with your specification. If not, they are out of contest, even if they are the cheapest one. So if we take aside that they have to comply the technical requirements, then you can go by price, but it's exclusive. You can first to verify that they can fulfill the scope, and then you can check the price. You can check another condition as time and things like that. But the ones who reach that stage, they will give you a good product, the thing that you want. Our problem is sometimes when we don't make a good specification. So the prices are very different and you can make a good selection. For instance, when we have a bidding process and you have a difference of 30% between the lowest and the highest, you have to do it again because something is not good.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. We have a couple more questions here, so let's get through them. Somebody asked, what is your opinion on establishing a vendor accreditation program?
Oh, I think it's very useful. You need to know who are you working with. You need to make some barriers for new suppliers to know that they are financially solid. For instance, that they have everything they need for making a good support for you. For instance, we have financial accreditation, but we also make supplier. We go to our vendors to make visits, technical visits, to check how they are doing their jobs, because the paper can tell you anything really, and you can have a lot of surprises. I've seen some companies that could be a little workshop and they start growing with us because we make this kind of evaluation, accreditation, and audits that will help them grow with us.
Awesome. And another question we have here was, can you provide some example KPIs that you have seen before to measure the effectiveness of the procurement or maintenance team relationship?
We usually go joint savings by this kind of projects, the inventory level, the all the stock breakdowns when you are out of a stock of some spare parts are the things that we usually measure with this, and the slow movement level also.
Cool. And we're receiving a lot more questions. So another one here is, for public agencies in the US, we are bound to lowest qualified bid. How would you approach this when working collaboratively with the procurement team to avoid buying equipment from bad actor vendors?
Yeah, the thing is, bad actor vendors should be in some parts identified. So the thing is, we need to have very good feedback to our procurement department about vendors' performance. If we communicate every failure they have, so they could have a rating, maybe they won't get invited for the next meeting. So that's the thing we usually do, to have a register of all the bad things they've done.
Awesome. And I believe we reached the end of our questions, which means that we have reached the end of our time. If anyone has any other questions, Manuel is actually in the maintenance community Slack group, so you can feel free to message him any questions that you might have about this presentation or about procurement in general or any of his expertise. So yeah, with all of that being said, thank you so much everyone for joining today's webinar. And again, as a reminder, we will be sending you this recording of this webinar right after, and be on the lookout for that in your email inboxes. And thank you again, Manuel, for joining us and for hosting this awesome presentation. I think I could speak for just myself as well as the community members. We've learned so much today from you, and this was really engaging and interactive as well. So thank you so much, Manuel, for this wonderful webinar, and thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of your day and hopefully see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.